Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of What's on My Desk. Today we're going to talk about a few extraordinary pieces, or at least those that I personally deem extraordinary for various reasons, and I'll get into that a little bit later. I brought the RM11 NTPT Lotus, I brought the Hublot Key of Time in rose gold, and I brought a Grand Comp from Zenith. First, let's start with the RM11 Romain Grosjean, aka the Lotus in full black carbon NTPT. Back in 2014, Richard Mille picked up a sponsorship of the Lotus F1 team by putting Romain Grosjean into their quote-unquote stable as an official sponsor. And there was a big story behind that. I mean, I've talked about, well, first let me talk about the watch a little bit. I talked about NTPT in the past. NTPT stands for North Tin Ply Technologies, which is a company that is exclusively making these NTPT cases for Richard Mille. Now, you've guys seen this funky material before, and the idea behind it is durability, lightweight, as well as scratch proof. Now, I will briefly tell you this, the way this is actually made is it's made in layers, where they take layers of this material and they glue it on top of each other with some sort of a special resin, I don't know, it must be a company secret, in order to complete one of these cases. And again, the idea is durability, lightweight, and scratch proof. Actually, I saw a blog somewhere that the guy that went to the factory of Richard Mille, and they literally took one of these cases, they tried to scratch it with something and it wouldn't scratch. Would I do this to this watch? Probably not, and I'm pretty sure if I scratch it against the payment, it would most likely scratch. But nevertheless, a very durable material. Now, the idea behind taking on, and the whole story with taking Jean Gros on, is this guy actually physically wore this watch on the outside of his racing suit while driving an F1 car. Now, an F1 car can go up to 300 kilometers an hour, roughly about 200 miles an hour. And this watch would have to withstand a whole lot of G-forces and still continue to function. And they actually did do this. The guy did a test run with this watch on the outside of his suit, and this watch withstood all the G-forces, all the sharp turns, all the stops and starts, and everything else that comes along an F1 race, which can be pretty intense. So as far as I'm concerned, this watch is extraordinary due to the fact that it could withstand ridiculous G-forces while in an F1 race car during an actual race. What else is extraordinary about this watch? The price. This watch came out retailing at $160,000. Its predecessor that has the rose gold case in the middle. There's another version of this where the watch is actually rose gold on the sides as well. So it's sort of rose and NTPT. It's a little bit heavier. Looks wise, you can't really tell the difference if you're holding the watch this way. You can only see if you turn it to its side. So what's extraordinary about it today? The fact that this watch retails today anywhere from $200,000 to $210,000, about 25% over its original retail price pre-owned. There's really not many new left of these. I guess last but not least, and I spoke about this before, is the overall design of Richard Mille's. They're all take after an F1 car. And by that, I mean they build these watches with the same exact concept in mind in terms of durability, in terms of this being indeed a racing machine on your wrists. And you can watch one of my previous episodes where I discuss this in more detail. Next, I want to talk about the Hublot Key of Time. Now, a lot of people look at this and say, oh wow, this is a huge, cool looking tourbillon. And half the people don't even know what this watch does. This is indeed a tourbillon. It's got a signature vertical tourbillon, and I'll tell you why it's a signature vertical tourbillon in a second. It shows the time sort of offset to the right, and it shows you the power reserve. And then there are these two markers here. 4 times slower, 4 times faster. And then there's the time indicator on the left, and you also notice 2 crowns. Of course, the Key of Time indicates time as we know it, like any other watch. But additionally, it allows for speeding up the time by 4 times or to slow it down 4 times. Basically, the idea is that you can enjoy certain moments longer or make other moments pass by faster. Now, conceptually, it's a really cool idea. It's like, oh, wow, that's a great idea. Why not? But mechanically, to produce this is an amazing feat, and this is what makes this watch extraordinary. Originally, this idea was conceived by Matthias Buttet when he was still at the helm of B&B Concept before they filed for bankruptcy. Of course, immediately after B&B went down, as pretty much as a result of non-paying customers, Hublot Jean-Claude Biver, or JCB let's call him, took over part of the machinery and 30 of their best watchmakers. And then in 2011, Hublot launched the Key of Time as their second timepiece in the Masterpiece collection. So no, this was not created by Hublot, but you know what? Hublot did a great job by buying the knowledge and buying the machinery and the parts in order to create this watch. Do I like the concept? Absolutely. It's a great, great concept. From a mechanical standpoint, how do you make a watch that even does that? What's most impressive about this is that as you set this watch to, let's say, run 4 times slower, 4 times faster, you can also reset it to go back to its normal time after you had that functionality going for a little while. And when that happens, when you reset that particular time, the hands or the hour hands actually go back to the normal time that it displays now. This thing doesn't have a computer chip inside, doesn't have a memory card inside. It mechanically remembers what the correct time is at the time, even though you have the watch working either 4 times slower or 4 times faster. Mechanically, from a horology perspective, this is a hell of a feat to achieve inside a mechanical masterpiece such as this. Now, I mentioned before that the vertical tourbillon is signature. It's actually a signature to WOMD. This is what they were known for by making vertical tourbillons. Let's talk price. $305,000 for this complication. That was a bit of a drawback and probably resulted why this watch doesn't resell as well. Today you can find this watch on a secondary market reselling at around its half price mark, around $130,000 to $160,000, depending on the condition, how complete the watch is. 2 reasons, I guess. One is the fact that this is a humongous timepiece. If I compare this to the Richard Mille, which is not a small watch whatsoever, you'll notice how wide this watch is. And you know what? They needed the real estate to fit the complications in. So not a whole lot of guys can pull this off on their wrist. Plus this thing weighs a whole lot. It's made out of gold and carbon, but still, because of the amount of parts in this watch and because how heavy the movement is, this watch comes out to be quite the brick. Second reason why it's not reselling so well is, again, it's the retail price tag. I felt like this watch should retail around that $200,000 price range, and if it did, it'd probably still resell at that $120 to $130, maybe even $150 price range. Setting the price tag on this at $305 was probably a fairly bold move by Hublot, but again, I spent a lot of money buying out B&B, their watchmakers and the technology and everything else and all the machines that they had, and they had to pay for it somehow. I believe this was a smart investment by Hublot. It put them in the limelight in regards to something completely brand new. This hasn't been done before. It's super innovative. And in the eyes of guys that love the nuts and bolts of watches and movements, this is certainly up there when it comes to innovation and being extraordinary. Last but not least, I'm going to talk about this Grand Complication watch from Zenith. This was actually a limited edition made for the Russian market. It said, I'm not 100% sure, it said that they made 5 of these. This one is at number 2, but I'm not 100% sure because it doesn't really say limited edition number this or that. On the back of the watch, it just simply says number 2. Now what this is a tourbillon, and I know right off the bat you're asking, Roman, where's the tourbillon? You really can't see it in the front or the back. The tourbillon is actually hidden under this Russian double-headed eagle crest. It's very tough to see with this camera, but it is there, trust me. This is a full perpetual calendar tourbillon chronograph. You'll notice that the chronograph displays all the functionalities of the perpetual calendar. Now, what's so extraordinary about this watch is the design. If you look close enough, you can see that the dial is comprised of a bunch of the double-headed eagles. You'll see the beautifully cut out double-headed eagle over the tourbillon. The watch itself is engraved, and it's done absolutely in a stunning way. This watch is an automatic. This is definitely an extraordinarily complex timepiece. Now, what else makes it extraordinary is how much you can pick this watch up for. Originally, they set the retail on this watch around the $400,000 price mark, which is not expensive for a full perpetual calendar chronograph tourbillon watch, especially one that's engraved in the way this one is. Companies tend to charge up for things like this, and they usually charge up a lot. You take a comparable piece, let's say from Audemars Piguet, from their Grand Comp line, retails were in the 6s, somewhere in the 7s, even 800,000s. And by pricing this watch at $400,000, they really did an extraordinary thing. And the reason for that is because they make their own movements. Zenith has been known to make moves for themselves along with others. You remember the famous Daytona with the Zenith movement? prices on those have skyrocketed because collectors love that ever since they stopped making them. But with having the ability to make their own such complex movement, it drives the cost of manufacturing down tremendously, because the biggest cost at the end of the day is still in the actual physical manufacturing. If you got to go out to somebody else to buy your movements, buy parts of your movements, whether it's just the tourbillon or the chronograph modules, whatever it is, it drives the prices up. By making everything in-house, they're able to sell such a timepiece at a much lower MSRP. Let's talk resale value. This is what's also extraordinary about this watch. You can pick this watch up cheap. And by cheap, I mean relatively cheap. I believe we're selling this watch for about $120,000 brand new. Zenith has not historically been great on the resale value. And I don't know, is it because Zenith is synonymous with VCRs, or Zenith is just not that A name that everybody thinks of? But it's a shame, because Zenith indeed makes some great watches. In terms of watchmaking, I believe they're second to none. They're probably top 5 watchmakers out there today in terms of what they can make. But unfortunately, the marketing is not there. Now, since JCB actually took over Zenith over the last couple of years, their sales have gone up. They've come up with newer models that sell better and resell better. But unfortunately, Zenith is not quite there on the resale end. You're not going to see a Zenith selling 25% over retail like this Richard Mille anytime soon. And another reason is because of the trends. The trends in the market right now are not for dressy watches. The trends in the market are for guys like these, big, sporty, bulky watches. And nobody can really appreciate a tourbillon such as this. This particular tourbillon also, it's kind of a double whammy right now. I spoke in one of my last episodes in regards to global markets and what brands are hot and what brands are not. This was made for the Russian market. And ever since the whole sanction thing and everything else, the Russian market hasn't been really doing well overall. It affected Zenith, especially this one, because it was made for that market. It affected Ulysse Nardin, it affected Breguet, along with a slew of other brands that used to sell there like hotcakes. So the end result, we're selling this watch for $120,000, but it's a lot of bang for your dollar. You're going to be hard-pressed to get out there, find yourself a perpetual calendar tourbillon chronograph for that kind of money, especially one that's so beautifully executed and designed. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick review of these extraordinary pieces. They're extraordinary for one reason or the other. Last but not least, let me show you something that's not that extraordinary. Today I'm wearing a Patek 5712 in rose gold on my wrist. Really not much extraordinary about this watch, other than the fact that it's much smaller, a lot more comfortable to wear than some of the clunky stuff I usually put on. One thing is worth mentioning is the value on these pieces. These watches have held their value extremely well. A second-hand pre-owned 5712 in rose gold today is trading around the $46,000 to $47,000 mark, whereas the brand new ones are trading way over $50,000. Again, we'll see where the Nautilus hype takes us, but for now, you expect to pay that if you want to get into one of these timepieces. Guys, thank you once again for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, make sure you hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Last but not least, share these videos with those that you think may like them. It's the only way to spread the word. My channel only grows because of viewers like you and you guys sharing them with your friends. And I'll see you guys next time for more watch reviews and other videos.